Hello and welcome back to Let's Talk Rangers. I'm one of your hosts, Ross Chalmers. And tonight, joining me, it's a debut for Craig Dennett. Craig, how are you? Welcome to Let's Talk Rangers.
I'm very good, thank you, Ross. Delighted to be joining the team here at Let's Talk Rangers, and yeah, exciting times all round at the club. Every times all round at the club as well, but delighted to be here to be talking about Rangers all over again.
Good. Do you know what I was thinking of today? Whether your debut will be like a Tour Romans or whether it'll be like a kind of Russell Martin Rangers manager debut. What do you think? What's more likely here?
I don't know, I was kind of thinking the same thing earlier on today. I was like, is it going to be a good one or a bad one? But I couldn't quite think of a player that had an absolute shocker.
You know what?
Yeah.
I was doing the same. I was trying to think of a player that had a shocking debut, but it's probably because you just erase it from your mind, isn't it? You don't think about those ones. So yeah, that was going to be part of the joke. But I thought I can't think of one, so we'll just go with Tour Romans for the good one, and we'll go for Russell Martin for the bad one. But no, I'm sure you'll do very well. You've got loads of experience in this, so I'm sure you'll be absolutely fine. But just before we kind of get into the podcast and maybe talk about Andrew Cavanagh's statement and things yesterday, that'll be the bulk of the podcast, which I'm sure no one's surprised about. Just wanted to get your thoughts on the season so far, you know, your thoughts on Danny Rule at the moment, potential title chances. I think is an opportunity for you to give your say on things. People have listened to Kyle and I for a while now. Probably they're not enjoying it anymore and they want a different voice.
Say, yeah.
So this is your opportunity to come on and give your say on things and yeah, maybe be the more positive one out of the three of us. So what's your thoughts on things so far this season?
Yeah, well, I think for all the listeners and the viewers, we all sit beside each other at Ibrox, so we all know each other really well, and I think it's fair to say I'm the most optimistic out of the three of us more often than not, and that's probably borne out through how this season has gone. So Russell Martin was Russell Martin. I don't know how to describe it. I think you look back on where we were when he left. The points total, the number of draws, I think we had 5 draws at the time he left, which is just almost a full season's worth already at that stage. I was resigned to have written off this season. Pretty much everyone I spoke to, every Rangers fan had written off this season. We then had the in-between stage. Is it going to be Kevin Muscat? Is it going to be Steven Gerrard? Is it going to be Danny Rowe? Is it going to be someone who we've no idea and they're just going to come out of left field? Thankfully, I think we can say now that thankfully it was Danny Rowe, and I think he's done a really good job, probably as good a job, probably better than I could have expected him to do since he came in. He has come in and, I hate the phrase got it, but he's just understood the mission from day one. He understood that he just had to find a way to win, and it was all about getting to January, and he just had to find a way to get results and just claw Rangers back up the table and back into a much more respectable position. And since then, since January, I'm impressed with the January signings. I think even Andreas Skov-Olsen's impressed me in the moments, to be honest. It's not that consistently enough.
I thought Kale and I were controversial at times. That's the biggest controversial shout I've heard in a long time. Fair play.
Yeah, he can't argue, right? He's turned up against Celtic. He's turned up against Hearts. He's got a goal which was a delightful finish against Kilmarnock. He's turned up in the games generally that have mattered. It's more about the consistency and how he's turning up, I guess, in the games overall. Probably playing a bit safe, but I still think he's contributing for a player that's not played much football. I still think he's very much contributing. So maybe controversial, but I think he's still on the right side of decent for as a January sign. Obviously, Romans is standout alongside Chikwane. Been really impressed with Ryan Nadiri as well, to be honest, albeit when he comes in with the tag of striker and he's £5 billion, you're like, oh, he's only found the back in it against Queen's Park, but he's doing all the dirty work for Chermiti, to be honest, and I'll be really interested to see how he develops going forward. And I feel like I've went into so many games since the end of January just thinking, just find a way to keep ourselves in this, just like cling on in there. You never know what's going to happen. There's several times where I've thought, oh, we're just at the edge of being out of this. I know there's been several times we've spoken, and you've right. We're miles out of this. We're done. We're gone. And I've tried to pull you back from the abyss. But yeah, I think it's borne out probably better than I could have hoped for at this moment in time, and to be 3 points behind with a better goal difference is prime position as we head into what is a really, really tough and really tricky 7 games. But also our biggest rivals across the city are probably one defeat in the next couple of games away from being out of it completely.
Yeah, I think I agree a lot with you said there. I think there has been times that I've written Rangers off this season. I think there's been lots of the support that have felt that way. And I do think they deserve a lot of credit for getting themselves back into it. And a big thing that has been drummed into me the last couple of weeks is you have to look at the opposition involved in a title race, and it isn't a normal season. It isn't a normal season where you've got one side that are racing away with it, winning every single week, and if you're not winning your games, you're going to find it difficult to keep pace. Actually, this season, I think I was reading the other day that it's only been one weekend this year where Hearts, Celtic and Rangers have all won on the same weekend, which is a remarkable statistic. I never thought that would ever be something that would exist, really, when it comes to the SPFL. So I think that shows you the type of league we're in. And yeah, I think it's fair to say that I have been a little bit negative at times. But yes, I've been told off by quite a few people in the last few weeks, and it's been rubbed in my face, to be honest with you. The Rangers are still in it. But as I always say about these things, I will be delighted if I'm wrong. If Rangers go on and lift the title at the end of the season, I will be absolutely delighted, and I will hold my hands up and say that I did wet the bed, and I wanted out of it too early. So yeah.
Well, where are you? Where are you at the moment in it? Where are you in the moment in like we're going to win the league? We're right in there, but no clue where I still don't think we're going to do it. Where are you on that scale?
Still need a wee bit more evidence-wise for me. I think the counter to the... I wouldn't say the counter to the optimism, because I certainly don't want to rain on people's parade here, right? I think the way I look at it is that I think Rangers got themselves into a really strong position a few weeks ago, and they fell out of it. And I think that's where we kind of sit again right now. You're at that stage where there's a lot of positivity amongst the support, and you think that we can kick on. And I've seen us have that a couple of weeks ago, and we didn't do that. So I think for me, the next 2 games will be really important for me. I think for me, I've always said that for us to have a really strong chance of the title, I think Rangers have to go into the split top of the league. And actually, where we are at the moment, there's a really good chance of that happening. Of course, we have to hope for other results to go our way, but the opportunity is there. So I think I'll maybe slowly turn round again, and the positivity will be there if we can win these next 2 games. If we can get top of the league going into the split, that gives us a right good opportunity. And I think if you look at all the data and things, which is something I'm a fan of and look at all the time, then the data is strong for us. It's edging towards us. So yes, I'm starting to become a bit more positive, but as usual with these things, Craig, I just need a little bit more evidence first, and then I'll maybe change my mind in these things. But everyone's entitled to their opinion, and I certainly like the support are kind of up for the fight and things like that. That's exactly what you want to see, and hopefully that is exactly the way I'll be in a couple of weeks' time. But let's get into the statement from yesterday. Then it was a pretty big one. Andrew Cavenagh released a statement to the supporters, really covered a lot of the club's direction going forward, and I think first and foremost what I would say is the transparency is really good, because it's something we've all complained about as a support for a long time. So to see that from the chairman coming out consistently and communicating with us, maybe he doesn't always say things that you want to hear, but you would much rather hear those things and deal with it after, and the transparency is good. Lots of stuff about focusing on a winning culture, restructuring the club internally, increase the investment in the first team. The main thing I think most people have taken from it is the kind of financial resources part of that statement that he spoke about. There's a few quotes here I was just going to read out so everyone's got a bit of context. I wouldn't go through the whole statement because we'll be here all night, and I'm sure everyone's read it by now, should I say. But he said that if we want to continue to improve on the pitch, we need to increase the total amount of resources of the club while also shifting many of those resources to the men's first team as possible. We're raising season ticket prices by 6.5%. The cost to run the club, player wages, agents' fees, security, food and beverage are all rising faster than the overall rate of inflation. We don't believe this is the time to decrease the player and football budget. In fact, we think the opposite. And we're also raising a 16 million of additional capital through a new share issue effective immediately. So again, good transparency in there. The big thing I'm going to ask you about first, Craig, is this 6.5% in season tickets, because I think in any time that it's a really difficult economic climate at the moment for everyone. Living costs are difficult for everyone. What I would say is I think 6.5%, regardless of that, is a big rise, right? That is significant. The counter to that would be that at least there is transparency there, and the club are coming out and describing why they're making these changes, why they're asking for the more money from fans, and where that money is going to go predominantly, right? Which I think is a good thing. How do you look at it? Is it for you? Is it just 6.5% is too much, or can you see the value in it when we're being told where that money is going to go?
I think I can see it from all sides. There are a few different facets to it, I guess. I think I saw somewhere, I might have the club wrong here, but Stoke City froze their season ticket prices for the 19th season in a row this season. That's never been how I viewed my season ticket at Rangers. I've always viewed it as, okay, it's going to go up a little bit each season, and that's how it's going to be. 6.5% is quite a hefty uplift. But like you say, Andrew Cavenagh has been clear. He's been upfront. He said, "Here's why we're doing it. Here's where the money's going to go. Here's why it's going to hopefully help Rangers be more successful on the pitch." And as a Rangers fan, it's difficult to argue with that, because that's what I want. I want Rangers to be good on the pitch. I want to be watching the best possible players. I want to be watching Rangers win trophies. I want to watch Rangers succeed and push as far as they can in Europe. So it's going to take money to do that. I know that. You know that. Every Rangers fan knows that. And where's that money going to come from? The Andrew Cavenagh and the 49ers enterprises are putting their money where their mouth is. They've done that. They've invested heavily this season. They've shown again with the additional £16 million investment that they're going to go again. And as fans, we need to play our part as well. And it's difficult, right? Because it comes down to individual circumstances and can you afford it, and can you afford the uplift? I completely understand. I've seen a few people on X kind of breaking it down and saying, okay, well, my season ticket effectively breaks down to £45 or £50 a game now. And that when you look at it like that, it is expensive if you're paying, say, £50 for a ticket to go see Rangers play Livingston at Ibrox. We're maybe used to those kind of prices when it's against Celtic, but if you break it down to every match cost that's a lot, and you need to have the justification and the understanding of why that is happening. But I think he's given us that. Now, it's up to the club then to make it value for money. I don't think the season tickets been value for money for quite a long time, to be honest. I don't think that value for money has been going. If you look at it as I know a lot of people don't like it, but if you look at it as a customer perspective, that what we are paying for, the product we are paying for, are we getting value for money? Probably not. But we're emotionally invested. It's something that a lot of us don't do just because we fancy going to the football on the Saturday. We do it because we love Rangers, and we do it because we want to support our team, and we love going to do that. So it pulls on the emotional part of you quite a lot. They know that. They play heavy on that. That's how all these introductory videos go. That's how all these sales videos go. But the 49ers enterprises are investing in the team. We need to do our part. I completely understand it. I'm bought into their commitment. I'm bought into their vision, and it's just one of these things, I think, is how I kind of view it.
Yeah, I think there's a good comment from Gary here. 6.5% is going to be tough for some fans, but at least you'll see that money put into the first team. And I think the proof's going to be in the pudding, right? Because I think at the moment, of course, there is a lot of supporters that are still questioning about the 6.5% being a big rise. But I think you're going to see whether it's lauded or there's lots of criticism for it when it comes to the end of the season, right? If Rangers go on and win that league title, and then they go into the next season and they have a really strong transfer window, I think lots of people sit back and go, well, we can see the value in that money. Rangers don't have a good end to the season, and they maybe don't have the best transfer window the next couple of transfer windows. People are rightly going to question where that money's going and if it's being used effectively. So I think that's what it comes down to. It's not necessarily always having the most money, it's how you spend it. And I think you've seen that from several clubs now throughout Europe. They maybe don't have all the resources in the world, but they spend that money effectively. And I think that's what you're going to have to wait and see. I think the 60 million share issue as well, that shows that they are wanting to do the heavy lifting for this, and they want to put more money into the club, which is encouraging. And I think, unfortunately, the sad reality is that clubs in Scotland, just like ourselves, we rely so heavily on gate receipts. And I mean, you look at I think it's 40% of our revenue that comes from gate receipts. If you look at the Premier League, I'd be surprised if that's 5%. Like, genuinely, like the TV money down there is remarkable. They don't really have to rely on fans coming through and watching the game. Probably most of those Premier League clubs could function in empty stadiums. They probably could. That's how much money they make from TV rights. So I think it's a difficult subject, and I think you were right to pick up there that when you look at it, there will be some individuals that don't want to pay this, and I think that's where I sympathise, because I never want to see anyone being priced out of following their team. I think Rangers as a club will look at it as they're a business at the end of the day, and the way they'll feel about it is if someone can't pay for that season ticket they have, someone else will come along and pay for it. And Rangers aren't different from any other business, unfortunately. And I think that is the reality of things, and we have to accept that. It's not great, but yeah, that's football, and that's part of it. I just seen this. Doddington is one of those ones that goes for me. And do you know what? This is a really tough one, because this is the 4th week now, Doddington, I've not been able to get a haircut, right? Thought I booked it today. I didn't. It was horrible. So thanks for reminding me that my hair is shocking at the moment. We're having a serious conversation and you want to remind me of that. I appreciate that. But yeah, thanks for watching as usual. So yeah, let's move on to the kind of culture, and the big thing from it was I think he was talking about the makeup of the executive team and things like that, and talking about sporting director and things. So there was a couple of quotes from that as well. So he said in there, we need to create a culture of winning. I want supporters to see themselves in the club. I think some of that has been missing over the last few months and years. We believe our current football structure is working well, and we don't plan to hire a sporting director. The executive team is committed to being smaller, nimbler, and more entrepreneurial. We want fewer consultancy firms and less bureaucracy. A culture of winning means returning Rangers to historical DNA and standards. So I think the first thing is, before I talk to you about the kind of culture stuff, which is, I think, is something that all Rangers fans like to hear about, standards and things in Rangers, and thinking that's so important in terms of winning. Let's talk about the sporting director, because that was something that was really, in the summer, everyone felt was a necessity. Kevin Thelwell really did feel at the time like a good appointment. He had good experience behind him. We all know how that went. We don't have to go into that. But quite quickly, actually, they've reverted on that plan. They don't feel they need a sporting director now. They did bring Stig Bernaby in, didn't we? And I think he's been doing a lot of the stuff in the background, probably on a consultancy basis, but it sounds like he's going to stay on now. How do you view that? Because it is a real 180, isn't it? From going that we need a sporting director and needs to run things, to just completely getting rid of that role completely. That is a massive change, right? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, Stig Bernaby, I think, I might have butchered that pronunciation, by the way, but he came in, and I thought he's clearly done a very good job in a very short space of time, given our January business. Working closely with Danny Rowe, is the proof. So the proof of these things is always in the pudding, I guess, in terms of how good was your transfer window. I thought we had a good transfer window, maybe one player short of where I would have wanted us to be, but we definitely weren't. We weren't shying away from spending money where money needed to be spent. So I think that's a positive. I'd be interested to know how much of Kevin Thelwell's role Bjornaby is actually picking up. Is he actually picking up all the first team duties, but it's the youth academy, it's the ladies team, it's that side of the club that's falling away, and that's why it's not a sporting director? Or actually is he just really focused on transfers and that's his only role, and that there's a whole load of stuff around the operational side of the football club that's just not being picked up? We don't know that. We don't have the insight into that. We don't really know. I would be supportive of a sporting director. I think Kevin Thelwell made a lot of mistakes. I think he made a lot of decisions that we thought were mistakes that are now turning out to be good. Look at Manny Fernandez. Look at some of Yusuf Chimchi's performances.
That's a dangerous game. I've done that once on this podcast and get slaughtered for it. That's a dangerous game, praising Kevin Thelwell. I would not advise going down that road.
I don't think he deserved to stay. Like, he made far too many mistakes, and he wasn't getting results quick enough from his decisions. but he's made some right ones. He's made some that have turned out to be correct in the longer term. But yeah, I'm not saying he should still be here. I'm not saying any of that. But if you look at the likes of Manny Fernandez and Yusuf Chamiti, who were getting dogs abuse at the start of the season, and now we'll look at where they are now and how they're contributing to the team. I think there's a bit about from a transfer perspective, that shows me why a sporting director can work. I don't necessarily think we had the right one in place, but it doesn't mean they're all rubbish. There's definitely someone there that could do that. So I don't know how long this is going to last in terms of this approach without a sporting director. I'd be interested to know if Danny Rowe, if this is something that he's asked for, or if he wouldn't mind working under a sporting director. He came in under a sporting director, so perhaps he was okay with it. And actually, the club has looked at the January transfer window and thought that this has worked quite well. So let's try this again and see how it goes. Where do you stand on it? Because you were quite convincing in terms of how you discussed in the summer the need for that structure and modernising the club in that way by having a sporting director.
Yeah, I actually still stand by that. I think a sporting director model is I think it's ideal for big clubs, because I think most big clubs have some sort of sporting director in there. What I would say is, if Rangers think they can fulfill that role with others, then that's fine with me as well, if that makes sense. I think for a while that Rangers just haven't had the right people in the right positions, and we've suffered for that. So if they think now that with Bjornaby coming in, and I think you're right to question things. I would imagine his main focus was recruitment there, but he has experience as a director of football. So I wonder if they're just taking advice from him in terms of all levels of the club now, and they want him to stay around longer. It wouldn't shock me if they announce him in a permanent role with a slightly different name, but he ends up being pretty much the sporting director in the future. Like that genuinely wouldn't surprise me. He'll play some sort of pivotal role. But yeah, it's something that I prefer. But at the end of the day, if Rangers are improving on the park, and Danny Rule, the manager, is okay with working with no sporting director, and it's more of a committee and things, especially when it comes to recruitment, that's quite common now, then it's fine with me. I think, again, it's all dependent on results. And I think that's just the way football's always going to be. You're always going to look at it and what happens on a weekend, and that's how you're going to make your assessment. So right now, Rangers have been fine, and that model seems to be working. I'm not sure how long that will work, if they maybe want to bring someone in that can implement the plan from Cavenagh and others. But right now, I'm finding it difficult to disagree with their assessment on things.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I think the difficulty comes, and we've seen the difficulty when we're changing manager every season, and actually there's no consistency in terms of approach, plan, player signings, player style, player attributes. There's not been any consistency, so you get into this cycle of just turnover after turnover after turnover every summer transfer window, and I think that's why a sporting director is needed, because they will provide that consistency in terms of vision, in terms of where the club wants to go, how it wants to play its football. And we're probably slightly at risk of that going by the wayside and falling into old traps at that point. But you're also, as a fan, looking at it going, well, as long as it works, does it really matter? And it's kind of, you're kind of split between the two. So it might result in a bit of pain if Danny Rowe doesn't work out longer term, or he leaves for a different job at some point or something like that. But at the moment, very much a fan. I'm looking at the January transfer window going, that looked a very coherent, well thought out transfer window. We got the players we wanted to get. We'd identified the right players in the right positions. Let's go do the same in the summer. So there's a few different ways to look at it, but there is that slight risk going forward, I think, from the structure of the football club.
I think so. And I at the end of the day as well, you want to get the right person in the role. And Rangers have had a couple of months now to look at the market, and maybe they just don't feel there's anyone out there that fulfills what they want right now. And I would much rather they come out and be transparent and say, by the way, not worth waiting around. We aren't going to appoint a sporting director right now. There isn't. We don't feel the right candidate is out there, so it's not something we plan on doing. I would much rather that than just trying to find someone to fill that role and hoping they can come in and implement, and they might not be able to. So again, I think it's I come back to the transparency part of it. I think that's the big thing I take from this statement. I would much rather read these things, make my own assessment from it, rather than you're not really understanding the structure of the club, what the plan is going forward. And I think that was the risk when Kevin Thelwell left, because he was actually doing quite a few interviews, and it's not really happened since. We've had one statement from Cavenagh, and then obviously yesterday. So that's going to start up again, and they're being open about things, then I'm finding it difficult to criticise too much. But anyway, that was the main points. There was a few other things in there about the kind of Old Firm statement. There was some stuff about the women's team as well, because they've been doing really well this season. There's a few other things in there. I wanted to go on to the kind of VAR stuff, because that was mentioned yesterday as well. Some reports coming out that actually Rangers are prepared to invest in the VAR technology in Scotland if they're given assurances that it's worth the cost, essentially. They're looking to meet with other Premiership clubs regarding referee standards. The interesting thing I read today, maybe not interesting, that's maybe the wrong term to put it, but astounding part of it today was that VAR in Scotland currently uses 6 cameras in a comparison to the Premier League that uses 30. So I think that shows you how far we are behind in terms of implementing VAR. There's obviously ongoing concerns around the consistency, the decision making, and really the big thing is, do we think it's a technology gap, or do we think really it's refereeing standards? And maybe that's what Rangers are trying to get to, right? They maybe want the VAR and the technology to improve, but they also want full-time referees. That was something that's been discussed as well. What are your thoughts on this in terms of Rangers getting involved in this and really leading from the front, aren't they? They're the ones that are coming out, putting their head above everything and saying, we want to improve the game here. We want to work with the rest of the clubs. It's not just about us. We want to work with the rest of the clubs. We want to meet with the SFA, and we want to improve things for the good of the game up here, and ultimately it will benefit everyone. What do you make of that? And also your just general thoughts on the kind of refereeing standards and VAR so far this season?
I think it's the right thing to be doing as a club. I think it's showing leadership. I think we're not going to the table saying, look at these 30, 40 incidents that have all gone against us, and this is rubbish, and we need to change this because these should have went our way. We're not saying that. We're saying, let's look forward. Let's look at the quality of refereeing. Let's look at the consistency on decisions. Let's look at the quality of the technology that we're using. Like you said, Scotland has 6 cameras. English Premier League has 30. So Rangers are saying, well, let's invest a bit more money to get a better product, and we won't have. There will always be controversial decisions. There's controversial decisions every week in English Premier League and Serie A and the Bundesliga. There's controversial decisions everywhere, but they are lessened by the quality of the technology and the quality of how they are used. What I didn't really understand fully, and you might be able to enlighten me, Ross, I don't know, but were Rangers saying that Rangers want every club to increase their financial contribution with further investment to be able to do that? I think it's £1 million a season each club is required to put towards VAR. Or were Rangers saying, we will stump up the vast majority of this money? We probably expect Celtic to stump up the same amount that Rangers will stump up, but are they saying, we'll stump up the vast majority of this money, every other club, their share will stay the same, and we're going to get better technology and better VAR as a result of that? I couldn't quite make sense of if that was what was coming out of it.
I didn't see anything in terms of what the percentage of the contribution would be, or figures or anything like that. But it does sound like, to me, what I'm reading is that Rangers would be willing to invest heavily in terms of putting more of a share in than others to get things moving, and then potentially they hope that others join further down the line when they're maybe starting to see the results of that. They maybe feel as a club that they can be the ones that drive things forward and get people behind them, get other clubs behind them. So maybe that's where the emphasis comes. But I haven't read anything that would suggest that it's just going to be Rangers paying for this, and I don't think Rangers as a club would support that either. Right? They're not going to fund Scottish football and for the benefit of everyone else with nothing coming back.
No, so. And I don't think other clubs would want that either, because then it looks like Rangers are just buying referees, and whatever decision goes Rangers' way, even if it's controversial, they'll say, well, Rangers have paid for the technology and that's why they're getting these decisions. I think in terms of the quality of referees, we all know it's bad, but they're not full time. When are they doing the necessary training? When are they doing the necessary analysis and assessment of performances from the weekend? When are they realigning on set consistent standards for different types of decisions like handball? When are they doing all this around their full-time jobs? And I've seen it said elsewhere, but what is Willie Collum doing when they're all at work? Like, what is Willie Collum doing to improve refereeing in this country when all of his top referees are out doing their day jobs? And it just doesn't work in that way. I think there are aspects of VAR that will really help. You look at the Champions League had it. I think like English Premier League has it this season. See the semi-automated offsides. It makes a world of difference, both in terms of the speed that it happens, but also the accuracy. And we are up here drawing lines with crayons. What was Jens Bertowski who says? Lines with crayons, like a 5-year-old or something like that, he said.
And sometimes we just don't draw the lines. Sometimes we'll just forget one of the lines. It's fine. Do you know what I mean? I know. Yeah. What you're going to do with that kind of standard?
And I think the VAR review show has gone from being a really good, transparent way for Willie Collum to explain some mistakes, but explain why they've happened, for everyone to see the process transparently in terms of what was discussed, to the last episode a couple of weeks ago, which was just a farce, to be honest. Yeah. It couldn't have showed them in a worse light. And effectively, it just came on to Willie Collum now absolutely lambasting every single refereeing decision because they get it so wrong, and it's so bad that he can't even, he's scrambling about to try and defend it. So there needs to be change, there needs to be improvement. It'll be interesting to see what shakes out in terms of amount of contribution towards an improved VAR. It'll be interesting to see because some clubs are fully on the just get rid of it altogether boat, so it'll be interesting if it goes to a discussion or a vote of some kind where that lands. But we need to do something, and I think Rangers are going about it the right way in terms of looking forward and not trying to blame bad refereeing this season or any previous season as a reason as to why change is needed.
Yeah, there's a few good comments here before I rant about that VAR show. Rab says we could have 30 cameras, but we need professional non-Scots refs. And I think that's an opinion we've seen several times now, right? About bringing other referees in for a 3, 4, 5 year period that then allows Scotland to develop professional full-time referees and take them through the process. That is something I've read a lot. Whether that's going to happen, I doubt it. And I think that is a big problem, that referees not being full-time. It's very, very difficult if you're in a day job. When do you said it there, when do you have the time to actually develop yourself as a referee? You're not going to have that. So that's a difficult one. Donington here as well. I don't know how it works, but it seems the ref runs up to the screen and makes a decision. I don't know what camera angle he sees. VAR should work already, but I'm not sure Scotland are using it right. And I think that is a criticism as well. Some of the decisions we've seen this season when they have had the opportunity to go to the monitor have been shocking. You touched on it there, and I'll just give a brief thought of this because I don't want to get taken off air, right? I honestly think that VAR show is an embarrassment. Like, honestly, I thought at the start of the season, the way I looked at it was, look, they're obviously still developing the technology and things. This is good. Transparency, we can go through it. And my vision for this was, as the weeks went on, the shows would become a lot shorter. They would be fixing their problems as they go. And really, eventually, it would probably fizzle out. And maybe it would become one of those things where you showcase VAR and how it's operated on and all these type of things. Actually, I think that VAR show is really highlighting how bad it is up here every single week. I mean, some of the decisions that are being made, and that's not just involving Rangers, by the way. There's lots of shocking decisions this season, mainly with the kind of dogzo stuff that we've seen the last few weeks, because they set a precedent now and they can't stick to it. It's just, that show has to be binned, because it's not helping anyone. It's not helping the referees up here, because it's just exposing them for poor decisions. It's one of those things that I think Scotland have looked at it and went, this is a great way to market our game. I actually think it's doing the opposite. I really do. I think it's just making us look like a bit of a laughing stock up here. It needs to be binned.
I don't think they can bin it. I don't think they can bin it, because I don't think they can, because I think you look at what we both said here is, okay, they've brought that out as being transparent. We get to see why decisions were made. If they were wrong, it's explained why they're wrong. If Willie Collum turns up at start next season and goes, no, we're not doing that VAR review show, the instant response is, well, what are you hiding? Why are you not want to tell us about that anymore? Are the referees so bad that you're not going to let us see it and admit mistakes anymore? Where's the accountability? Those are the questions that come immediately as soon as he bins. He's caught between a rock and a hard place at the moment.
Could that communication not Could that communication not be between the clubs and the SFA though? Do supporters have to see that? Do they have to see those terrible decisions? If we know that terrible decisions are being made, do we have to listen to the VAR team go through it
I
and
think
show?
the cat's out the bag because we want accountability. With what we've been asking for so long is accountability.
There isn't accountability though, is there? There isn't. You know, these referees make these poor calls. VAR team makes a bad call. What? There isn't accountability. They're on a game the next week. And by the way, I don't want to see people like heavily punished. You know, they're doing a job at the end of the day. It's not about that, but there doesn't seem to be any sort of process to move us forward. It just kind of seems to be, oh, we've made a mistake again. We'll publicize it and we'll let you know we made a mistake and that's it. We'll move on again. It's like, well, no, these are big decisions that are costing teams points. And for me, this is why I always wanted VAR in the game. I just want the right decision to be made. Now, I get that's not going to happen every single time, but ultimately that's why I'm looking at VAR. I want the right decisions to be made, and that's why I've always looked at that as being a positive. But in Scotland, I just don't think what we have right now in terms of the technology and the capability of it, and also the refereeing standards in general, I don't think you're ever going to find that. Like, I just don't think it's going to come. So that show for me, as much as I understand where you're coming from, I think for me it's got to be binned. I don't think it's doing any good for us, and really I think it's setting the referees up for disaster, to be honest with you. And I think that's putting so much pressure on them week in, week out. And I think you can see that now. The big one I come back to, Craig, is that call at Livingston with Cammy Kerr and Mikey Moore. For me, that's a decision that the referee, he doesn't want to make it. So he goes to VAR to bail him out, and VAR's not going to bail him out because we've seen it several times that there's incompetence, right? It's not going to help him in that situation. And I think that's the difficult part for me. There's two sides of it. So overall, I'm encouraged by this. I think you'll have to get a lot of Scottish football involved and get on board. I think Rangers have done these things before, unfortunately, and they've asked for clubs to join them and look at refereeing standards, and it's kind of been knocked back. What we're hearing at the moment is it seems like there's enthusiasm from lots of other clubs to get involved with this, and if that helps the Scottish game, then that's the best thing for it, isn't it? But that is probably where we're going to leave it tonight. That's actually been a really good podcast. Lots of stuff in there that we've got through. I would actually say that was probably a tour. It was closer to a Tour Robins debut, Craig. We'll give you that. That wasn't a Russell Martin.
I'll take that. Absolutely take that.
No rust there, clearly. But yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Really appreciate it. If you've enjoyed the podcast, please like the video, consider subscribing to the channel. We are less than 100 subscribers away from 1K now, which is like a really big milestone for us when we started this. So if anyone can take 2 seconds, it's free. Hit the subscribe button. Like, it genuinely does really, really help us. You like the video as well. It's massive. It pushes out to a bigger audience, which of course is something we're looking to do. We're always looking to grow. So if anyone can do that, we really, really appreciate it. You can find the podcast on all major audio platforms too. So if you prefer listening instead of looking at us, that's fine. And I mean, Doddington will be happy with that. He doesn't need to look at my hair. That's fine. You can listen instead, Doddington instead. And yeah, remember, you can find us on X and TikTok. We actually crossed 10K on TikTok the other day, which is crazy. So if you enjoy the shorter clips of the podcast, that's definitely a place to find it on TikTok. And yeah, enjoy the weekend with no Rangers. There's two sides of this. They could have made it the best weekend ever, like last weekend, or they could ruin it. So let's just all take a break, relax, enjoy the international break if you like that, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.